Hello, Bobcats, and welcome to GC360, your source for the latest news and stories from the heart of our community and beyond. We have a packed show for you today. And I'm Jalen Brooks. Whether you're a student, faculty member, or just someone interested in what's happening in our community, GC360 is here to keep you informed and engaged.
CVS and Walgreens pharmacy techs organized protest over insignificant wages and working conditions.
And what will it take to restore Central State Hospital's buildings? We'll tell you all about it.
This is GC360, where news comes full circle. Thanks for joining us. Low wages, understaffed teams, and high work expectations are what moved CVS and Walgreens workers to walk out in several states, demanding better working conditions. Some people think that workers should form a union. Reporter Jalen Brooks explains.
Pharmacy techs at CVS and Walgreens staged a series of walkouts in several states. The goal of these demonstrations is to secure better working conditions and make filling prescriptions easier. Protest organizers cite tensions over insufficient wages, understaffed teams, and increasing work expectations from corporate as reasons for the strikes.
They're such big corporations that they should be able to pay their workers and hire more people, especially since COVID happened. They've been adding more responsibilities onto each form of tech and everything like that. So I think that they should get more help and more money and possibly form a union so when things like this happen, it can be more organized and more conversations and a specific representative.
Pharmacy techs are expected to handle an increasing number of prescriptions, vaccinations, and other tasks daily, accomplishing all of this with a dwindling workforce. This strain leads to longer wait times for customers, which often results in them taking out their frustration on the staff. Pharmacists from multiple Walgreens stores participated in a 3-day walkout at the end of October. A month before, nearly 24 CVS pharmacists went on a 2-day strike in the Kansas City metro area, closing at least 22 stores. Workers at both companies have previously staged walkouts in Arizona, Washington, Massachusetts, and Oregon, slowing or stopping business at several locations. Responses from both CVS and Walgreens corporate have downplayed the issue. In a statement on the 3-day walkout, Walgreens said only 3 stores out of 9,000 nationwide were affected, and that was only on the first day. CVS said that they'd been serving customers nationwide as normal all that week and didn't notice any unusual activity or pharmacy walkouts. We are still waiting on a statement from CVS in regards to the Kansas City walkouts. No Walgreens or CVS pharmacists were available to comment due to corporate policy. The majority of Walgreens and CVS personnel are not unionized, which makes organizing more extensive protests difficult. These walkouts are the latest in a sweeping labor movement affecting several industries, from auto workers to writers and actors.
This is Jalen Brooks reporting for GC360. It looks like Milledgeville is about to lose another piece of its history. 3 of Central State Hospital's oldest buildings have been slated for demolition. Why is this happening, and how might this affect those in the community of Baldwin County? Erin Finnegan tells us more.
Central State Hospital has been a major part of Milledgeville's history since 1842. There are still some current Milledgeville residents today that were born in the Jones Building, which is one of the 3 buildings up for potential demolishment. The other 2 buildings are the Green and Wash buildings. One alternative preservation option that has been discussed is restoration, which would bring the buildings back to their previous conditions. Adaptive reuse has also been considered, which would change and remodel the buildings to be used for different purposes. Matt Davis, Director of Historic Museums at Georgia College, shared his opinion on the possibility of preserving these buildings.
And the guys at Central State Hospital, would it be feasible or financially responsible to preserve those sites in the condition they are in? Probably not. But can we document them? Can we research them? Can we know their history? And through a variety of different technologies and archival resources and exhibits, we could still interpret that site, even though the physical building may be gone at this point.
Councilman Walter Reynolds of District 4 and former interim executive director of the Central State Hospital Local Redevelopment Authority also gave his thoughts on the possible adaptive reuse of the buildings.
As an opportunity to save some of these buildings, if not in their entirety, at least in part. In my conversations with the state, when I was still with the Redevelopment Authority, my position was rather than tearing down the entire Jones building, it would be better to demo the new construction from 1930, basically the western half of the building, save everything that sits along the pecan orchard, and then with that reduced footprint, someone could build a massive new building on the backside of it and attach that historic facade, which would preserve the historic preservation tax credits and allow us to retain the charm and character that we've had around the orchard since, the 1930s.
According to Reynolds, the original plan with the 3 Central State buildings was to demolish them and bury them, meaning that the hazardous materials would be put into the soil. This would cause severe harm to the land, making it undevelopable. Reynolds also noted that the historical site brings in tourists from all over, and if it's removed, the rates of tourism in Milledgeville would decrease, which would negatively impact local businesses. The public has been able to attend the few public hearings the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities has held. Baldwin County residents who want to have their voices heard on this issue can reach out to their state representative and leave comments on the DBHDD website. Reporting from GC360, this is Erin Finnegan.
Coming up on GC360, we'll dive into this week's installation of Student versus Professor. The question, what impact does technology have in the classroom?
A wave of emails has been drowning student inboxes with spam messages. Why did this happen? One Georgia College professor explains.
And don't miss the weather report, where we find out what's on the forecast for next week. All of this and more after the break.
Welcome, listeners. How y'all doing? Coming soon, right from the classrooms of Midway Hills and Lakeview Academies, the Writing for Success podcast, a reimagining of the 1998 anthology, Everybody Has a Story to Tell, Stories of Flannery O'Connor's Milledgeville. Baldwin County students will share their stories as part of this 100% federally funded grant of $385,000 to improve literacy in Baldwin County Elementary School. That sounds pretty good, y'all. Come check it out. Can't wait to see y'all there, or hear y'all there, or just hang out there. See you there.
News anchor. Oh, what do you want? Like 10 seconds. Can you just read this announcement for me? Okay, 10 seconds. Okay. This semester, GC360 is introducing a new show, Cat Talk. We will showcase a new guest each month and deep dive into some topical issues of concern to you. You may also see some of our guests play some silly games while they're here with us. You won't want to miss this. From GC360, this is Isabella Vanderlende. So join me each month for Cat Talk right here on GC360.
Welcome back. This is GC360, where news comes full circle. In this week's installment of Professor versus Students, what kind of impact does technology have on a college lecture hall? Do phones and laptops hinder or accelerate students' classroom learning? We'll find out the answers to these pressing questions and more in today's installments of Professor versus Students. Let's join Caroline Hubbard for today's segment. Caroline?
Thank you. So today I have with me Professor Molly Wilkins and sophomore Nevaeh Jones. We're going to be talking about technology use in the classroom. So Nevaeh, do you think technology in the classroom hinders students' abilities to learn?
I personally think it hinders students' abilities to learn, mostly because it can be a very big distraction unless it's mediated in a way that could be helpful to the classroom.
Yeah, in a lot of ways I would agree with that. Of course, I teach mass communications, so a lot of what we do does require technology. Now, one thing I do have in my syllabus is I will tell students that if you're laughing at your phone, I will ask you to share with the class, because I like to laugh. Yeah. We all like to laugh.
And so do you think social media platforms such as, say, like Instagram, TikTok, Yik Yak, do you think they can help or hinder students' classroom experiences?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question. So I am somebody who very much lives in the social media world. I don't like calling myself a social media influencer, but it's what it is. So I think it's one of those things that as long as you use it the right way, then it can actually help with the student experience. Again, mass comm professor over here. All of my students pretty much are going to be using social media at some point in their job. So we integrate this a lot in our classroom lessons. Now, that said, I personally don't super care for Yik Yak. I find that it can just be very rumor mongering, and that can very much hurt students.
I personally agree. I think social media use like Instagram or Facebook can be used as outreach and can be used in a helpful manner, but things that are just like for fear mongering or just to have open opinions that honestly lead to probably disagreements, like Yik Yak and Twitter, for example. I think if they can be used in a helpful manner, I think it's great, but if it's just meant to just throw out opinions, I don't think it's very helpful.
Yeah. And so what limitations do you think should be put on like student classroom technology use?
That's another good question. I believe in personal responsibility. I would just assume not put restrictions on students because I think they need to be able to own that time themselves. Now that said, if it gets to the point where a student is using social media or their phones, whatnot, to the point where it's distracting others, then of course, we're going to squash that.
How do you feel about that?
I personally agree. I definitely think it's a personal responsibility. Having limitations on it is a good thing, but also having an intention. Like, I had a professor who he would force us to not have our phones, but he had an intention with it every single time. He didn't just do it just to do it, but he had an intention with it to make a more welcome classroom for students just to talk better. And it did, in the end. It allowed us to have better communication, and it just was better, in my opinion.
And so if technology is used inappropriately in the classroom, what repercussions do you think there should be?
Oh gosh. That's a really good question. I haven't had to encounter that, to be honest with you. I really don't know how I would handle that. I'm not the kind of professor or lecturer who really likes punishing people. For me, I would much rather have a one-on-one conversation. If it looks like somebody's using technology to the point where it's distracting others and it's becoming a problem, I'd much rather have a one-on-one conversation. I think that's more constructive as opposed to just calling somebody out, unless it's just necessary at that point in time.
And how do you feel about that one?
I personally agree. I think it can affect academically as well as like socially and mentally, just a lot of different factors. So I think having a much big thing, like you said earlier, personal constraint, I think that's very important, but I also agree with like calling people out. It can be helpful, but honestly, it's probably not as constructive.
Well, thank you both so much for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You got mail. The Georgia College student body recently had emails flooding their inboxes from none other than Adobe. Bobcats were bombarded with 4 to 5 emails a day, with each message giving information about how they could utilize Adobe Express for higher education. This is due to Georgia College changing some of its subscription agreements with Adobe.
The license that we have at Georgia College and State University is that every student gets access to Adobe Express. Now, what made these emails kind of challenging, and I suspect that part of what happened was when they were trying to give that to every student, that there must have been a misconfiguration or something, and so students were getting multiple emails and like, well, what's going on? But the other part that made it challenging too is that, especially in mass communication as well as art, some students already have the full Adobe Creative Suite package. And so for those students, Adobe Express really isn't going to do much to help them to get the stuff done that they want to do. So there was confusion because, wait a minute, I already have Creative Suite. Why do I need this Adobe Express? And the answer I told them was, no, it's not meant for you. It's meant for students who don't have any other kind of alternative.
Some students, like mass communication majors, will keep their Creative Cloud accounts that give them access to products like Premiere Pro and Photoshop.
Now for our local forecast with María Nieves-Concepción. Anna?
Thanks, Caroline and Jalen. And hello, Bobcats. Halloween is a thing of the past, and guess what's coming up? Thanksgiving break. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to eating some delicious meals, so I went around the studio asking for dish recommendations. Erin, who was on teleprompter today, said that her favorite meal is honey-baked ham with mashed potatoes on the side, which would be perfect for tomorrow's weather. Cloudy day with a high of 75 and a low of 58. Today's co-producer, Gracie, said that for a day like Saturday, she would enjoy her grandma's pecan pie, since we're expecting a rainy day with a high of 62 and a low of 54. Sundays are days for relaxation, and with a high of 60, and our co-producer Lily loves eating leftover stuffing and taking a nap when the temperature lowers to 47, so we all know what Lily will be doing this weekend. Moving on to next week, our sound producer Dana said that with Monday's temperatures, she would enjoy a warm green bean casserole. Anyone want to guess? Monday will have cloudy skies and a high of 62 and a low of 41. Today's expression operator Michael says that for a cloudy day like Tuesday with a high of 60 and a low of 41, he's craving a single bread roll. And don't worry, we already shamed him for it. Finally, Wednesday will be a cozy day with a high of 65 and a low of 47. GC360's executive producer Emily said that she's looking forward to eating some classic mac and cheese. My name is María Nieves-Concepción, bringing you the weather forecast for the week. Back to you, Jalen and Caroline.
Coming up next on GC360.
Dive in with us to the exciting world of sports as we learn about the latest updates on our favorite fall football teams.
There's not any bad blood in the exciting world of Taylor Swift right now, as she just released 1989 Taylor's Version, which will never go out of style.
And who's still in a spooky mood, even after Halloween? Get ready for some thrills and scares as we explore Georgia College's Haunted Trail event. Details after the break.
My favorite news anchor. Oh, what do you want? Like 10 seconds. Can you just read this announcement for me? Okay, 10 seconds. Okay. This semester, GC360 is introducing a new show, Cat Talk. We will showcase a new guest each month and deep dive into some topical issues of concern to you. You may also see some of our guests play some silly games while they're here with us. You won't want to miss this from GC360. This is Isabella Vanderlende. So join me each month for Cat Talk right here on GC360.
Welcome, listeners. How are y'all doing? Coming soon, right from the classrooms of Midway Hills and Lakeview Academies, the Writing for Success podcast, a reimagining of the 1998 anthology, Everybody Has a Story to Tell, Stories of Flannery O'Connor's Milledgeville. Baldwin County students will share their stories as part of this 100% federally funded grant of $385,000 to improve literacy in Baldwin County Elementary School. That sounds pretty good, y'all. Come check it out. Can't wait to see y'all there. or hear y'all there, or just hang out there. See you there.
We turn our attention from the sky down to the ground. Let's see what the athletes have been kicking up in the world of sports.
Thanks, Caroline and Jalen. For our national news, it's been nearly a year since Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin almost lost his life after suffering cardiac arrest during a matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. Hamlin most recently announced that he has launched a scholarship to honor the 10 University of Cincinnati medical staffers that saved his life. According to USA Today, the scholarship will be awarded to 10 individual underserved youths, with each student receiving a total of $1,000. The award is set to run for the next 3 years, where every year 10 new individuals are selected to receive the gift for educational purposes. Who doesn't love fall football? The Georgia Bulldogs remain undefeated after their 30-21 victory over the Missouri Tigers on Saturday at home in Sanford Stadium. Despite the absence of several key players, they managed to get the job done, whereas quarterback Carson Beck threw for 254 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, and fan favorite wide receiver Ladd McConkey had 7 receptions for 95 yards. For the Georgia college community, the women's soccer team concluded their season on Monday after a 2-5 loss to Columbus State University in the quarterfinals. They had an overall record of 8 wins, 8 losses, 2 ties, and 3 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie in the Peach Belt Conference. Finally, the women's volleyball team has a road matchup at USC Aiken today at 6 p.m. They are hoping to add another victory to their current 14-win, 14-loss record and are set to face Flagler College at home on Saturday at 5 p.m. for senior night. That's all I have for you today, Bobcats. Back to you, Caroline and Jalen.
Thanks, Skyla. HBO has recently released their new 3-part documentary, Savior Complex, telling the story of an American woman accused of killing children while completing missionary work in Uganda. Is this a telltale example of white saviorism? And what does this say about the ethics of modern-day Americans? Ava Cortez has the story.
I think some of the most wild accusations that were made about me is that I killed 800 children. I was medically experimenting on children compared to Adolf Hitler, assumed to be part of the KKK. It's kind of like where to begin, you know?
HBO's new 3-part documentary, Savior Complex, follows the story of Renee Bach, an American missionary who in 2010 founded Serving His Children, a Christian nonprofit organization with the goal of feeding malnourished children in Uganda, which ended in a lawsuit against Bach in 2020.
I think it is a really powerful example of the harms that can be done by well-intentioned people when they are not reflecting over dynamics of race and colonialism.
Savior Complex has sparked conversations online about white saviorism and ethical concerns regarding missionary work in countries abroad. Georgia College senior Margot Messier shared her thoughts with GC360.
I think it does more harm than good. So, especially like the people that are going over there, they're like teenagers that are not equipped to handle the things that they're seeing.
After the backlash that Renee's story received, the question of what's real altruism has been brought up to determine ethical volunteering efforts.
I think genuine altruism works best in community with people. So genuine altruism can happen when you are in, you have deep relationships with the people that you want to help and support.
If you want to do something extra, go to school, get trained to do it. And that's exactly what that girl should have done.
Savior Complex is considered an example of what can happen when we underestimate the consequences of well-intended actions. Reporting for GC360, I'm Ava Cortez.
Now for entertainment, here's Addison White.
Thank you, Caroline and Jalen. This week on entertainment, we have some sad news. Friends actor Matthew Perry passed away in his Los Angeles home on October 28th after a sudden drowning. You will be forever missed, Chandler Bing. On a lighter note, the Taylor Swift 1989-era Girl Squad is reportedly back. After Swift was seen exiting a nightclub with Selena Gomez, Gigi Hadid, Brittany Mahomes, Sophie Turner, and Caroline Delevingne, this seems to be perfect timing after the recent release of Swift's 1989 Taylor's version. And attention all Elvis lovers, Jacob Elordi, who is playing Elvis Presley in the upcoming movie Priscilla, says that in order to get into character, he copied the late singer's excessive bacon-eating habit. I don't know about you, but I for one would look for any excuse to eat that much bacon. That's it for entertainment this week. Back to you, Caroline and Jalen.
This week marks the beginning of November. October is now a thing of the past, but there's still some lingering Halloween spirit. Georgia College's Wellness and Recreation Center recently hosted their Thunder Haunted Trail event, where visitors are greeted by ghosts and ghouls as they embarked on their journey to complete the trail.
Those attending also enjoyed freshly roasted s'mores and hot chocolate, which was sure to keep attendees warm from the chilly fall air, among the other festivities. GC Wellness and Recreation also hosted a giveaway on their Instagram page, gifting a few lucky winners free entry to the event. Man, what a way to entertain yourself before Halloween.
That's it for GC360 News this week. I'm Jalen Brooks.
And I'm Caroline Hubbard. When we're not on the air, we keep you up to date on our social media pages. That's facebook.com/bobcats-multimedia and at GC360 News for Twitter and Instagram.
Hi, my name is Susie Parker. I'm a student docent over here at Andalusia Farms. Andalusia served as the home of the famed American author Flannery O'Connor from 1951 until 1964 of her passing at 39 years old. It was here that Flannery famously wrote and had all 32 of her short stories published. After her passing in 1964, though, the property was eventually entrusted with Georgia College and State University. It is now our proudest achievement to say that we are the nation's newest National Historic Landmark. And on top of that, on March 25th of 2023, we intend to open up our interpretive center and then ultimately return the entirety of the home back to how the O'Connors had it when they were here. There's a ton of stuff that college students can come and enjoy, especially as a Georgia College student. Not only are tours free, but the entirety of the property is free to roam. This is including the front porch, in which we actually leave unlocked for people to come up, have a seat in the rocking chairs, and maybe do like a study session. But even more so than that, we have a nature trail down by the pond, which is about 2 miles long. It is very, very beautiful. And we also have Astor and Mrs. Shortley, our peacock and peahen, who are pretty fun to visit as well. Another really fun thing that a lot of people like to come to Andalusia for is for photography, not only of, photography of the forestry and things like that, but we've had several weddings out here that have had their photos done. But on top of that, this is a wonderful and beautiful place for Georgia College seniors to come and have some of their portraits done. And it's very fitting that it's here on site with Georgia College.